Okay, wonderful. Yes, so I'm Betty. I'm the CEO and founder of Research Through Gaming. I'm not the editor-in-chief of GameAccess.com, which is a gamification blog where you can go on there and find really great case studies on gamification, not just in research, but in many other industries. And that's run by Dana Stanley, who's over there. So speak to him if you're interested in game access and lots of gamification case studies. So Research Through Gaming celebrated its 1-year anniversary just a few days ago, which I'm really pleased about. So, you know, still surviving, still able to eat and pay my rent, which is really, really great. So we started off making a game called Pimple Crisis, which is available on YouTube if anybody wants to have a look. And the whole point of Pimple Crisis was to demo my idea for Research Through Gaming. So it was done for a mobile phone, so you'll see that the iPhone is on there. And the idea is that respondents make an avatar of themselves and they're immediately imbued in a virtual environment, so they're in a kitchen environment. So I posted this up about 4 or 5 months after the company started, and I had a look on YouTube just now, and it has had 1,953 hits. And I'm not telling you that to boast, I'm telling you that because it is essentially a survey, and yet so many people have been interested enough to come across the YouTube channel and play this video to see what this kind of new research is all about, because I think people are really recognising that research in its current state, not the states that we're talking about today because we're talking about a lot of innovation, but the traditional sort of grid survey format, 40 minutes long, just isn't working anymore. So we started off with Pimple Crisis, and then we went on to do a gamified employee satisfaction study as well. And we did a magazine question hunt more recently, which is what I'm going to be speaking to you about today, and that was for 7 to 10-year-olds in the UK. What I'm going to show you, as far as I have Googled and as far as I have listened at conferences, hasn't ever been done before. So this is going to be a first in the gamification industry and a first in market research as well. And I really hope that you guys will go away and Google and tweet about gamification and search the hashtag gamification to really find out about its huge amount of psychological, social uses and benefits, not just in research, but in many other industries. And so basically what I wanted to do was steal what was so addictive and engaging about gaming, because people spend hours playing games, and put that into research. So people would be comfortable to spend more than 10 minutes taking part in online studies. And it's a particularly important case when we want to speak to children, and especially young males who are notoriously hard to reach, when we're trying to do things like healthcare research, because it's really important to engage the next generation, otherwise we're going to be completely putting them off, and really important research that we want to do just won't get filled out anymore. It's a huge waste of time and money, as many of you will know, with declining response rates. So, just a bit of background information. These are just some of my drawings. This is kind of how I see, this is how I think respondents see research, because I know from going around from conferences to conferences that there are so many innovative things going on with neuroscience and with mobile, as we're talking about today, and with augmented reality even. But I think that when you even Google surveys, what comes up just looks really dire and boring, and it's terrible because the survey is the face of our industry. So it's a huge shame that we're represented in such a bad way. So I have learned from various research on research that respondents have a negative emotional and physical response when they see the grid survey. And so this is kind of what happens. They get this and they're like, huh, whatever this. Sneezing panda. So the sneezing panda is the most popular YouTube video, and yet we can't get people to take part in our surveys, which is really ridiculous. And Tom Laselic is here for a reason. I think he's the perfect human embodiment of what market research looks like to respondents today. So there's kind of something like old about it, and it's you kind of feel guilty to look at it, even though it's kind of sexy. But ultimately, you'd prefer to go for a much more current and modern option. I'm glad that's tickled some people over there. But yeah, so I said in a blog recently that I think research is a lot like my dad. Tom Selleck is not my dad. But my dad is 66, and he has had a very rich and colourful life and can talk endlessly about lots of different eras and experiences and things like that. But ultimately, I just get so frustrated with him that he can't just be up to date with the modern times. And I think that's what goes on in research. But anyway, I digress. Right, so I'm going to talk to you about research for gaming. We are 3.5 people. At the back, there is Will Pointer. That is Ray Pointer's son from the Future Place. He has made our database. This is my bedroom, by the way. And yeah, he's made our database, so we do our own data collection, which is pretty cool. And there's Oscar with the big hair in the back, and he's our programmer. He's an intern, and he's a genius. And my brother there, who's a playtester, I don't pay him, so I can't be accused of slave labour. Don't say anything to anybody. But yeah, so this is us, and we do gamified surveys. And so I hear so many people go, oh, but the cost and the resources for doing gamified surveys is too much. And it's like, well, you know what? If we can do it in my room with very little money, then you guys can do it too. So don't whinge, because I have articles and I have blogs everywhere, and you can learn about it. And I do workshops as well, and I'm happy to teach everybody how to do gamified surveys. We're in Wood Green in North London. We work from my room, as I said. And yeah, this is a screenshot of Pimple Crisis, our first video. And so not only are we very experimentational with the game itself and use avatars to help bridge what is called the empathy gap and help people build a real bond with their virtual selves, but we also experiment a lot with the language that we use. And we try to do it in a way that's not too try hard, because we don't want to be patronising or condescending, but we want to be able to be colloquial. We want to break down that authoritarian tone and stop asking people to think in scales and just talk to people like a human talks to a human. And I think in that way people feel much more comfortable to be open and honest about how they feel, especially when we're doing something a little bit more sensitive, like talking to teenagers about acne, for example. So here's some examples of what we do. Okay, so we have a software platform, which is essentially a virtual home. We call this the Placebondant Playhouse. And you make an avatar of yourself and you're in the room. And so we're doing a lot with 3D virtual environments at the moment. So this is an example of our lounge. And the reason that we're doing 3D stuff now as opposed to 2D as we started off with is just to make things even more realistic, with the hope that eventually not only will you be able to open drawers and cupboards and washing machine little drawers for the fabric conditioner, but you can go on to even pick up pieces of furniture and move them around so that you're literally replicating the room that you have at home, so that time and time again when you come in to answer questions about anything in the home, you can do that in a space that is really yours. And on top of that, we can collect masses of data about how people have their homes, how people live their lives, and how they interact with their rooms, as well as the products and the questions themselves. Anyway, right, so gamification at its very basic, and all games that you've ever played in your whole life will have this. Rava and Cabin. So Rava are rules, a feedback system, voluntary participation, and a goal, or penultimate goals. So the little goals are maybe levels with the penultimate goal at the end. You are not doing anything game-like or gamification if you don't have this. Gamification isn't just fancy images and nice fonts. So for example, this Prezi presentation really isn't gamification at all. Games have this. So when you were little and you were playing Kiss Chase, you had rules, a feedback system, voluntary participation, and a goal. And I have seen games being used in so many different industries. I have seen games being used to help people grieve the loss of a loved one, or gamification to be used to help people who are sick get better, as well as gamification to help increase sales and things like that. Before I continue, are there any gamers in the room? Anybody who plays any video game? Well, obviously. Nobody really plays games here? Okay, cool. Well, that's absolutely fine. Well, I mean, the research that I've done about gaming over the course of about a year and a half shows me that the games industry's audience has vastly widened, especially as games are on more and more devices. So, for example, Nintendo Wiis are being played in retirement homes, and children are really, really comfortable and confident playing games on iPads as young as 2 years old. And so when I think about games and the huge audiences for games, I say to you, yes, gamification and research can be used for adults as well as children as well. Anyway, how games can be even more interesting. You have Cabin, you have a collaborative approach, you have an ability to share your achievements and your rewards, any bonus features, which people like Farmville are really good at. So, I have to get that Christmas tree graphic and harvest all my chickens. Increases in problem solution methodology, which, as we know, the more we play a game, level 10 is harder level 1, level 25 is harder level 15, but you're developing the skills as you go on and play the game to be able to tackle the challenges later on. Noticeable aesthetics. As much as games aren't about bright colours and so on, a noticeable aesthetic is really important as well, and that's what we've tried really hard to do at Research and Gaming. So, Bernie, where's Bernie Malinoff? There he is, hello. Right, Bernie, who's the president of Element 54, and John Paulston, who also does a huge amount with gamification and research at GMI, did a study called How Far is Too Far, which they presented last year at the ESMA 3D Digital Dimensions Conference in Miami. And this is just one slide from the huge data set that they presented. And they looked at not just gamified surveys compared to text-based surveys, but gamified surveys, gamified surveys compared to text-based surveys with some flash tool elements as well. And what they found was, in my opinion, the holy grail of research. So the respondents had a great time, so the respondents who did the gamified survey in green, so they said that they had more fun. The answer time was longer, which led to a direct correlation in a decrease in straight lining. So this all suggests that they're really thinking about what they're saying, and because they're having a good time, it's likely that they'll come back and do more research, which betters everybody in the market research industry, which is what we want. So, right, this is what I came here to show you, okay? So I came here to show you revolution in research. I was working with a client who are the publishing side of a major UK-based TV and broadcasting company. And they wanted to speak to 500 boys and girls aged 7 to 10 years old in the UK. They gave us 2 weeks to do it. I was biting my nails because I was like, oh my God, are we really going to get this? Because they are notoriously hard to reach audiences. And this is what we did. It is a revolution. No, I'm joking. Of course we didn't do this. Right, anyway. Okay, so this is the video of what we did. I'm just going to show you a playthrough. And if I can ask the person who's playing the video to... hello. Yeah, if you could play the video, but then because it's a little bit long. If you can just skip through bits. Yeah, so press play. Okay, so yeah, obviously the client there is immediate media. There was no point in me trying to cover that. Anyway, so the respondents, when they pick a female avatar, they go into the girls' room, where there are questions and stimulus there specific for the females. And if they're a boy avatar, they go into boys' room with questions and graphics there specifically for the males. I did a focus group before I made this game, because I really wanted to know what 7 to 10-year-olds think and act, and just basically how they are. I just wanted to speak to 7 to 10-year-olds. And I found that the reading and writing abilities from the 7-year-olds is hugely different to the reading and writing ability, even to the 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. And it was really clear from the focus group that I did that they want transparency, clarity, and simplicity. So when my client gave me the first survey, I was just completely appalled. I mean, a lot of complex sentence structures and words that they're not going to understand, and all these scales, and it was very long. And so I just stripped it down to make it just basic and clear and really transparent. And so as part of that, as part of that, what we did is try to break it down for the children as well. So we broke the survey down into 3 levels. And the reason it's called Magazine Question Hunt is because you find stars around the room, so open drawers and cupboards and things like that, and the stars pop up into questions. And the reason that we did that is because a lot of the stimulus that was being researched and tested was video game advertorial. So this kind of star hunt format seemed quite fitting with what we were testing initially. If you could just fast forward a bit, the video, just go halfway, a little bit further. Yeah, so it went on for 3 levels. So the first level we find 3 stars, the second level 5, and the third level 8 stars. And the whole point is to get right to the end for the celebrity challenge bonus game. What you can't see here, which does exist, is a huge amount of hidden timers. So we use what we call paradata elements to measure respondents' reactions. There's a huge amount of research out there. I've got blogs about, if anybody wants to read, about the use of hidden timers and measuring respondents' reaction, because sometimes that completely juxtaposes what they've said. And also, if you take an average of how long it's taken people to do something or say something, that data can be as juicy and interesting as what they've said themselves. If you could just skip nearly to the end to get to celebrity challenge, but yeah, about there is right. Okay. So You can see there's a visible timer there as well as a hidden timer. So the client really wanted to know which celebrities were most recognisable to the children to include them in the magazines. And what we found was, on average, with the use of visible and hidden timers, the respondents recognised Justin Bieber the most. Great. They're going to use Justin Bieber more in the magazines. They didn't recognise Dappy, a UK celebrity who really gets on my nerves, but he was the least popular celebrity. And by using a visible timer, it prompted the respondents to really think on their feet. So the tiles moved away at exactly the same time around the faces for all respondents to make it fair. And with the idea that very quickly we wanted the respondents to say who this is, no time to deliberate, we just want to know how you recognise these people, because when you're flicking through a magazine, you haven't got time to deliberate, you're flicking through. So we wanted to try and recreate that kind of quick time thinking. Yeah, this is Dappy, by the way. So yeah, and the client got really rich data from that. And not only that, but they got interesting data from who they got wrong. So a lot of the children said that they thought Dappy was this celebrity called something Dogg. I can't remember who it is. 1 minute. Something Dogg. No, not Snoop Dogg. Some other dog character. I don't know who. But anyway, because a lot of the respondents said they thought that Dappy was this person when they got the first, second and third life, the little hearts, they decided to use that celebrity more because it showed that he was top of mind. So with the use of the hidden timers and the visible timers and gamification, we had a really great response rate. And I'll just flick through this really quickly. Yeah, so it ran from the 8th of April to 14th of April, so not too long at all. So as I said, they gave us 2 weeks. So I'm just going to skip through this bit because we want to get to the results. Yeah, we had over 700 completes in just under 7 days, which was amazing to see. And it was really great when my iPhone kept going off because more completes were being done at 11 o'clock at night. It was really nice to hear. But we had, obviously, some respondents kind of were able to get through that shouldn't have. So we had over 10-year-olds, we had some under 7-year-olds as well. So once we took away those out of quota respondents, we still had 545 completes for the clients. So we still had more than what they wanted in half the time that we wanted it. And so they were really pleased with that result. And so the panel manager called David Gregory at Sawpit Research, who does loads of research with children, said that the respondent feedback is positive and there is no doubt that the survey game worked well in keeping respondents engaged, as it was longer than a typical survey too. So it was about 25 minutes long, which by what I've just tweeted kind of goes against everything I say, but we tried to keep them under 30 minutes. And at the end, we asked the respondents, what did you think of this research game? And over 85% of the children gave us positive comments. But what was really interesting and more useful for us was the other children who, despite just doing a survey, still gave us time to give constructive criticism. So they were able to tell us what they thought would make the game more interesting and engaging and just generally better. And so that was really great to see. And here are some of the reactions from the children. So it was awesome and interesting from a boy aged 8 years old. It was really fun. I would like to do that another time. Great. Respondent loyalty. Come back and do more research. I enjoyed it a lot. It was really interesting and fun. I really liked the celebrity guessing game too. That was my favourite part. And fun, a good way of getting younger people to participate in surveys. And that's great as well because it shows that maybe we could spread the word, use gamified surveys more with children and get the same kind of response rates. What else was interesting is that we had around 30 duplicates. So even though the respondents couldn't get any more incentive, the panel company wasn't giving them any more vouchers or money or anything like that. They still come back to do the game again, which is, from what I know, pretty much unheard of for children to come back and do a survey a second time or a third time, as one boy called Ethan came back and did it 4 times. And I think that he was pretty much trying to guess the celebrities right in as quick as time as possible. But even though the data was there again, because they came back to do the same survey twice or 3 times or 4 times in Ethan's case, it's still valid data. Okay, there's some clients who want to take the first set of data from the first survey, but even when they answer again, they can still use what they've said. It doesn't mean they have to throw it away and completely ignore it. So, it looks like it's game over for boring surveys and useless data. The respondents really took the time to answer the questions. They obviously had a good time. They obviously came back to do more, and they will come back to do more again in the future. And so this was hugely positive for us. And because we don't touch Flash and we only use HTML5 and JavaScript, it means that our games are great for iPads and mobiles as well, and respondents can do them on the move, which is kind of how this links into the MRNW conference, right, in a roundabout way. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry, I think I went over time. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, we are working on gamification best practices, and we have some draft copies out. So if anybody wants to have a read and maybe contribute, that would be great, and we'll put them on the Research Your Gaming website. Oh, no, we have a question.
Just a quick question on,
yes,
on any kind of validation you may have done versus the traditional, boring research system.
Right, well, I mean, the feedback that we've got from the panel companies that we used, so there was 2 panel companies on there, Swapit Research and another UK-based one, and just kind of from the panel manager's feedback, the levels of engagement and the response rate is hugely different to what they were used to. So it was actually the panel managers from both companies themselves that said, you're not going to get 500 completes in 2 weeks. And the fact that we've got more in half the time, I mean, it astounded them as much as it astounded me. But yeah, I mean, in terms of validation on the respondents themselves, it's the panel company's job to ensure that the respondents are who they say they are and get parents' permission and so on. So we don't kind of get involved with that, even though, of course, you want to know that, you know, all boxes have been ticked. Hi, yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Betty, are there any specific types of studies that you think are better gamified or are better done with your platform than others?
No, not really. I mean, because gamification is such a flexible tool that you can apply gamification to one question or the whole survey, as we've seen here, or for the entire research project. So I've done consultation for clients who have wanted to gamify trackers. So the actual survey itself looks exactly the same. Good questions and, you know, white backgrounds and radio buttons and so on. But the entire process is gamified. And so I would say that gamification can be used for max diff studies and conjoints, trackers, ad hoc surveys like this. Even gamified surveys on a mobile using QR codes on the move. So there are ways to incorporate gamification with GPS technology and, you know, scanning QR codes and do it all live. And because it's such a versatile tool, I just think that you have to approach every single project, do it project by project, because it's almost like a client can come to me, this is my problem, and so the solution is gamification, but the solution is completely different every single time, completely different.